welcome back to day 3 of the 12 days of crochet. So let's get straight into it. Yesterday's clue was about how people love this creature, bringing them little trinkets and money, but all that stuff has to come from somewhere. And to me, that implies a heavy dose of mischief. So let's see who we're making today. Day number 3. And we are, of course, making a little raven. Now, the contention about the name of this thing is that over here they're commonly called crows. Australian crows, but it's a raven on an international stage, and so a raven is a more accurate name for it. Frankly, that's enough mischief to get it onto this list, even if it wasn't actively stealing things from people. So to make our raven / Australian crow today, you're going to need 8-ply 100% acrylic yarn in 2 colours. You're going to need, well, that's not technically true. Technically, you could just make the whole thing in black and it'd be fine. But for our purposes today, I'm going to be making mine in a light grey for the beak and feet and a dark grey for the body, though I am just using this to substitute in for black because black doesn't show up on camera as easily. You're also going to need some stuffing, a pair of 9mm safety eyes, a 3.5mm hook, scissors, a needle to add some finishing details. And I also recommend having a bobby pin or a stitch marker available just because it can be really helpful to keep track of the end of each row so that you know that you're not missing any stitches. But that's it. So yeah, today's pattern is going to take you about 40 minutes to make. Don't forget to stick around till the end of the video to get a clue as to who we're making on day 4. So made all in one piece, we are going to start at the top of the head. And you can supervise from over there. Okay? Okay. So starting in, sorry, I understand that this is charcoal. I'm going to be referring to it as black for the sake of clarity and just so that there's no confusion between what I'm going to be calling grey. You guys know the drill by now. Starting in our black, I'm going to work a magic ring of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In row 2, we're going to work an increase, a single crochet, 2 repeats of 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. So 1, 2, 3, and then the next stitch over, 1, 2, 3. Then a single crochet and an increase to get us back to the start of our round. And you should be 12 stitches around at this point. In row 3, we're going to work 12 single crochet around. 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, and 12. So there we are. We have the top of the head. In row 4, we're going to start with an increase. Then 11 single crochet around, changing to our grey in the 11th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 9, and that's 10. And then we're going to work a colour change in this 11th stitch. Now, I'm going to assume that a lot of you have worked through days 1 and 2 already, so you're already familiar with these, but let's just go through it again. So to work a colour change, all you do is insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop of your existing colour so that you've got 2 loops of that on your hook. You then hold that colour out of the way, grab a strand of the colour you are changing to, pinch it at the base of the stitch on the inside of the work, and yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. Tug on your old colour to scooch the stitch down into place, and it should leave you with a finished single crochet in your old colour, but your new colour on your hook ready to go. And you can work colour changes in any kind of stitch, it's just that final yarn over and pull through has to take place in the colour you're changing to. I am just going to tie these 2 ends together just to lock it in place, but we are not trimming any colours off just because we're not done with either of them. So to start row 5, we're going to be working all into the same stitch, a single crochet, a double crochet, which is where you yarn over your hook, insert into the stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, so you've got 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops, then still into the same stitch, another single crochet, changing back to our black. And it's up to you if you want to work over the top of your other colour or just pull it across the inside of the work. So because today's pattern is quite small, I'm just pulling my yarn across the middle of the work when I need it again. So that's the start of our little beak. Then in our black, we're going to work 4 single crochet, an increase, 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, another increase, and then 4 single crochet back to the start of our round, changing back to our grey in the 4th stitch. 2, 3, there we go. So at the end of row 5, you should have 17 stitches in your round. In row 6, we're going to work a single crochet, and then all into the same stitch, we're going to be working a single crochet, then chain 1, a double crochet, chain 1, and then another single crochet all into the same stitch. So we worked 3 stitches in total into that stitch. And please note, in the next row, we are going to be skipping those chains. So if you're going to have trouble identifying which ones are the chains and which ones are the stitches, take some stitch markers now and just mark your double crochet and the singles that you worked. If you don't need help identifying those stitches, don't worry about it, but that's just in case you do. Save ourselves some stress. Then still in our grey, we're going to work 1 final single crochet, changing back to our black. In our black, we're going to work 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then 2 repeats of an increase and 4 single crochet. So that's our first repeat, and we're going to do it again. Increase, and then 4 single crochet, once again changing back to our grey in the final stitch. 3 and 4. So in row 7, we're going to work 2 single crochet. So that's 1 and 2. Just going to pop that stitch marker out because we don't need it anymore. Skipping the chain and working our next stitches into the double crochet at the end. And we're going to work 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3. Once again, skipping the chain, we're going to work 2 more single crochet down the other side of the beak, changing back to our black in the 2nd stitch. There we go. Then in our black, we're going to work 16 single crochet back to the start of our round. 1, 2, 3, 14, 15, and 16. And we are not changing back to our grey. In fact, I'm trimming it off at this point. We will be using it again later for the feet, but that is the beak formed, basically. So you should have 23 stitches in your round at the moment. And in the next row, we're going to shape the beak as well as start building the little chest ruffle. So row 8 starts by skipping 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They should be your 7 grey stitches of your beak. Meaning the next stitch where we're going to work into is the 8th stitch from our hook, or the first black stitch on the other side of the beak. And we are going to fold it over so that like they are really close together and the beak is pointing outwards. And we're going to work 2 repeats of a single crochet and then a picot. So a picot is just when you chain 3 and then slip stitch into the first chain. Now, the chest ruffle is basically made entirely out of single crochets and then a picot sticking out in between them, but we are never working stitches into the picots themselves. So once again, just like with the beak, if you have trouble identifying the difference between a picot and a single crochet, chuck a stitch marker or a piece of yarn into each of the single crochets that we work in a pair with a picot, so you can find them later. I'm probably just going to mark that first one just as a demonstration tool. So that's 1, and we're going to do that again. Single crochet and a picot. That's 2. We're then going to work 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, and hold on to your hats because we're about to form an entire wing. So you may notice that this particular row kind of rambles on a little bit. That's because this row kind of has 3 generations of rows neatly encased within it. But look, I promise it's a lot easier when you see what we're actually doing compared to what the instructions look like. So to make wing 1, we're going to start by chaining 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, right? It is significantly longer than what the head looks like it should be. That's okay. We're then going to turn, and starting in the second chain from our hook, work 3 slip stitches. 1, 2, and 3. Then 6 single crochet down the rest of the chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's what we currently look like. We're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're working back up the wing. So not back into the body yet, just back up the wing. 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and turn. Starting in the second chain from our hook, we're going to work 2 slip stitches down those chains. 1 and 2. Then a single crochet. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn and work 2 slip stitches down those chains. 1 and 2. Is this all making sense so far? Then 3 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 2 slip stitches, 1 and 2. And now that should get you to the end of the row. And then we're going to turn and work 2 slip stitches down these edges. 1 and 2. So that is the first wing formed. Tricky, right? So we're going back to working into the stitches of the body now. And we're working a single crochet, an increase, 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, an increase, and a single crochet. Please note that I'm not really paying too much attention to what this wing's doing at the moment. We kind of really lock it in its angle next row, but for now we're just building it. And with that, it is time to build wing number 2. And wing number 2 is built identically to wing number 1. So we chain 10, 1, 2, turn, work 3 slip stitches, and 6 single crochet, chain 1 and turn, 6 single crochet back up the wing, chain 3 and turn, 2 slip stitches down the chains, single crochet, chain 3, 2 slip stitches down the chains, 3 single crochet, 2 slip stitches to bring you to the end of the row, and rotate and 2 slip stitches down the ends of the wing as well, 1 and 2. Now this time when we go back to working into the body, it's really important that you make sure you're still working in the same direction as you were when we started. So that is back towards the beak. Okay, it's really easy at this point to accidentally like start here and start working up the back of the head again. Like, no, we are still working towards the beak, and we're going to work 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 repeats of a picot, and a single crochet. That's 1 picot, and then a single crochet, And then a final picot to finish the round because we can. There we go. So lots happening in row 8, which is what we've just done. So let's just recap real quickly, shall we? So we've started the chest ruffle, and in fact we have made 5 of the little chest ruffly feathers. We've cinched the beak shut, and it's fine if it's looking a little like misshapen at this point. We straighten that out when we like finish sewing this little opening shut at the end. So that's fine. And we've built both wings. Now the wings don't look normal right now. And that's okay. We're going to fix that in the next row. So you worked a lot of stitches just then regarding like wings and ruffles and whatever else, but you actually still only have 18 stitches left in your actual row. So if you wanted to, you could stop at this point and just make sure you could identify 18 stitches in your main round. But row 9 is going to highlight for you pretty quickly if something's gone wrong. So row 9 starts with 2 repeats of a single crochet and a picot, and we are only single crocheting into the single crochets, not into the picots from last round. So single crochet, and we do a little picot. Then we skip the picot. We know there's a single crochet between them. Single crochet, and we do a picot. That's 2. We're then going to work 13 single crochet around. So the first 3 of those fall before this first wing. 1, 2, and 3. Then what we want to do for this wing is you want to fold it up the body, but you want to twist it first. So you see how this wing has a side with a long feather and a side with a short feather. We want that long feather facing the center of the back. So I'm just folding it around like this and then up the body. Then I'm working a single crochet behind it into the next available stitch of our row, just to help lock it into place. Now that's going to flap down again as we work, but it should flap down again with that long feather still in the center of the back. If you needed help working out what that should look like, your other wing naturally forms that position. So they should look like the mirror image of one another after you've done that little twist. So then I have 7 more single crochet around to get to the other wing. And this wing doesn't need to be twisted, it just needs to be neatly flapped up and out of the way. And we will be working a single crochet into the first available stitch of the round on the other side of it. Again, make sure the wings are on the outside, and then that's 13. And then we just need to finish off this little chest ruffle. So we have 3 repeats of a single crochet and then a picot. That's 1. Single crochet in between, making sure the picots are poking out to the front. Picot. Single crochet. And a final picot. And your round should still have 18 stitches left in it. For row 10, we're going to start with a decrease. If you see where we currently are, you'll see that there are 3 picots between you and not having to think about picots again for a while. So that decrease is formed between these ones here. So insert my hook into the single crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, insert my hook to the single crochet, yarn over and pull up a loop, making sure all of the picots are going to be on the outside, and yarn over and complete my stitch. Then it is 7 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Should get you roughly to the midpoint between the 2 wings. We're going to work 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Then 6 single crochet down the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now this is the final time we're going to have to wrangle picots this pattern. So all you have to do is put another decrease in. So to do that, the first stitch we're decreasing over is between the next 2 picots, and then between these last 2 picots is the final one. There we go. And we decrease, and we're done. We're done with picots. They're effective, but my goodness do I find them annoying. To mark my final stitch of my round again, just to try and keep track. Alrighty, so we're heading into some easier rounds now. So row 11 is 9 single crochet. 1, 2, 7, 8, and 9. 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then 8 single crochet back round to the start of our row. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Row 12 is 10 single crochet. 3 single crochet all into the same stitch. And then 9 single crochet back around to the start. And then row 13 is 11 single crochet. Three single crochet all into the same stitch. And then 10 single crochet back to the start. That should leave you with 24 stitches in your round. And at this point, we're going to stop and pop our eyes in. So that's what I currently look like, not having straightened anything. So I'm just going to straighten the wings out down the back a little bit, straighten the beak up a little bit, puff the chest out a little bit, and pretty soon you'll be looking at the approximation of a raven. Nevermore. All right, so I'm grabbing my eyes, and they are going to be inserted into row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just basically you want roughly 1 stitch visible between the edge of the beak and where your eye is sitting. If I was really making these authentic, I would give them a little white circle around the outside, but the next closest thing is having them be shiny and bright. So safety eyes will do. So see, I consider those to be too close to my beak. I'm going to move them back 1. So that is where I am putting my eyes today. And that is the goal for how we want the eyes to look. I'm showing you both just because I remember very vividly yesterday what happened with the raccoon's eyes. So I'm going to snap the backs on here. Oh, we got a popping noise. Okay, that's a good omen. There we go. So our eyes are now attached. So back to our crochet. Row 14, it starts with 3 decreases. 1, 2, and 3. Then 7 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So please note that leaves you with just 1 stitch remaining in the 3 single crochet you've done into the same stitch in the previous round. So just in case you're paying attention to that sort of thing, we are now slightly off to one side. That is me accounting for the natural drift of this particular pattern. So that is why the center has just been pushed 1 stitch back towards the center. And we're going to work 5 single crochet into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And 2 decreases back to the start of our round. 1 and 2. That should leave you with 23 stitches in your round. Row 15 starts with 2 decreases. 1 and 2, then 8 single crochet, 1, 2, 7 and 8, 3 single crochet all into the same stitch, 1, 2, 3, 8 single crochet, 1, 2, 6, 7 and 8, and a decrease to get us back to the start of our round. You should be down to 22 stitches in your round. Row 16 starts with a decrease. We're then going to work 5 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, just as a quick note, that is where one of the legs is going to be positioned, so please make sure that it is not either in the center of your body or somewhere around the back. Loosely on one side at the front is ideal. We're going to skip 9 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the 10th stitch from your hook is where you're going to work your next stitch. And we're going to work 4 single crochet, 1, 2, 3 and 4. 5 single crochet all into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and a single crochet to get us back to the start of our round. So you should have 20 stitches in your round at the moment. You'll note that we've abandoned a bunch of stitches to the tail here. That's fine. We're going to just like weave that shut at the end, so you can ignore that. We have a new round we're focusing on, and you should have some indication as to where your 2 feet are going to be as well. They should be roughly on either side of your bird, hopefully. So we have just 1 row left to go, and I bet you're wondering how we get from this to this. I'm about to show you. So our final row, we're going to work 3 single crochet in our black, changing to our grey. 1, 2, 3. All into the same stitch, we're going to work a slip stitch, chain 2, 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2 again, and then single crochet into the same stitch, changing back to our black. There we go. One fiendish little paddle. With our black back on our hook, we're going to work 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, then 2 single crochet 3 togethers. So 1 and 2, and then 3 more single crochet, changing back to our grey. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to build our second little foot. So again, all in the same stitch, we're going to slip stitch, chain 2, work 2 double crochet, 1 and 2, chain 2, and then work a single crochet, changing back to our black. Second little grabber. Then in our black, we're going to work 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to finish off. And I'm going to leave a little bit of yarn here because we'll just use this yarn to close off our openings. So of that tiny bit of yarn I had at the start, I still have a little bit left. No, we don't need this anymore either. There we go. So this is what we currently look like. We have some flappy wings. The undercarriage is a little bit of a mess, but that is what we're going to clean up now. So I'm going to start just by stuffing the body, and I'm going to stuff it from the feet opening. Make sure that stuffing gets all the way up into the head. They're smart little birds. They need something to help them with their plotting. To the back. So he's stuffed. If anything, he's a little overstuffed. Then I'm going to thread my extra yarn here onto my needle, and we're going to just sew some of these openings shut. And don't be intimidated by this, because it's as easy as you could possibly want sewing to be. So we're going to start with this big intimidating triangle gap, and all we're going to do is, see our little finishing off flap? We're going to fold that against the outside to form 3 pairs of 2 stitches. We're going to sew that shut first, just working our needle through the front loops only. So that's 1. Then back to the top front loop. Next front loop. 2. And 3. Leave the little foot alone. It's supposed to flare out like a little paddle. So that's half our problem solved, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side, once again working from like the foot down to the opening in the middle, just to avoid confusion. So I'll just thread this across. There we go. So once again we are squeezing this leg shut, so it should form a little V, and we want to work through the front loops only, from the side facing away from us to the side facing us. It's a little easier with a curved needle, but please let it be known that I've also done this with just my hook. So we're not sewing per se, we're kind of just weaving ends in a complicated fashion, but that's just kind of just another way of describing sewing, really. Go, so 1, 2, 3, and if there's any little remaining opening here at the base, you can just go ahead and work a little stitch to close that off too. So there are the legs all formed, and now we're going to do the tail. And for this tail, we skipped 9 stitches. So you should have, if you flatten it, you should have 4 pairs and then 1 loose stitch at the end. And once again, we're just going to find our front loops. 4, and then through this final one, grab the front loop and down into the body. It's more to tuck the end in than anything else. Now for these wings, they're a little floppy and flappy and unpredictable, but you can make them very predictable by just laying them down against the body, all polite and such. Cross those 2 largest feathers over the top of one another near the tip of the tail. And with this same strand, I'm just going to work a single stitch up through both of those longest feathers and back down into the body. To keep them in place. So you still have all of that glorious shaping. They still have some flap to them. You can even leave them open and flappy if you'd like to, but that will hold them down nice and flat to the body. And the final thing we have to do is the beak, and you could do this in the dark grey or your black as well, but I'm just going to change over to my light grey here. And for the beak, we skipped 7 stitches. So once again, so that should leave you with 3 pairs and then 1 stitch odd at the end. And the reason I'm making such a big deal about pairing up your stitches is it's going to mean that you sew these openings shut in a straight way rather than having them like crooked or being pulled in the wrong direction. So just looking for pairs of stitches should help keep everything lined up nicely. And for the beak, rather than using the front loops, which will seal it shut nice and neat and whatever, I actually recommend that you sew together using just the back loops, and that will give your beak a very, very slight double beaked appearance. Like still working in pairs of stitches, but just picking up the back loops or the loops on the inside of the piece instead. Because then you end up with like a little ridge. It gives you like a top and bottom beak. It's a very small detail, so you can absolutely just use the front loops if you prefer. So we are, it's just the one at the end, back down into the beak and out into the body somewhere where we can hide it away real easy. There we go. So that's what I'm talking about there. So you see how we've got like those front loops still sticking out, giving us a very slight beakiness. And there is our Australian crow / Australian raven / common crow / common raven, depending on who you ask. I know the bird I was trying to make. I just can't seem to get a straight answer as to what its name is. But we'll go with raven because I think it'll speak to most of you. And there he is. His little fluffy chest, his little pitter-patters. He's got his wings. And we made him in 17 rows with... I'm sorry, I'm going to call this no sewing because literally all we did was weave openings shut. And now we have an attempted murder. Ah! So there is day 3 done. So day 4 had to be given a specially crafted couch to stop it destroying thousands of dollars in property. So it's also going to take you about 35 minutes to make, and you're going to need a brown and a white. If you think you know what it is, let me know in the comments down below, and I will let you know tomorrow how many people guessed it correctly. And remember, if you want to see your raven in tomorrow's slideshow, you post the photos over on the Complicated Knots Discord, and there is a link in the description down below if you haven't joined that yet. Anyway, I hope to see you tomorrow for day 4. Okay, bye! Alrighty, so here is our communal gaze of raccoons, and I have to tell you, you all really delivered on the creativity today. I don't know about you, but all day I have been hearing about that raccoon that broke into the liquor store and passed out in the back office, which I honestly think cements the raccoon's position in our Mischief gang, even though it feels like we've just been making a lot of raccoons this year. Now, the shaping of this particular fellow meant that I felt I couldn't include certain other creatures in this lineup because they'd be basically the same shape. But I think some of you were flipping what I was frying, and as you can see here, you've made a bunch of variations for yourselves, and I love that. Just a little reminder that any photos that don't quite make the cutoff time for the day will still show up over the course of the full 12 days and in the day 13 wrap-up video. As you can see here, we have a pretty healthy blend of squirrels and raccoons going on, and I'm hoping that it gets more and more chaotic as the days go by.